right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another installation of Real Estate Unfiltered with Ben Cushing. I am here with a living legend, if you will. I don't know who might think Gerry's a living legend. Maybe just Gerry and I do, but that's okay. But I'd like to introduce to you a dear, dear friend of mine, Gerry O'Connell. Gerry is a commercial broker over on the Seacoast area of New Hampshire, and does a bang up business over that side of the state and into Maine, I'm sure, and other places. I got to know Gerry back in 2016. Gerry and I were on the first Leadership Academy class here in the state of New Hampshire, and needless to say, it has been a fun ride so far. The Leadership Academy class became really good friends, and Gerry and I've been able to see each other a number of times serving at different levels at the state as well as the national level, and we've seen each other traveling all around the country. I hadn't seen Gerry for the longest time, and when you know it, Gerry and I are in San Diego, and I'm sitting outside having a sandwich on this street in San Diego back in November, and all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, Cush!" I look up. It's none other than the Irishman, Gerry O'Connell, which is always awesome to see. So welcome, Gerry, and thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks very much, Ben. Good to see you too, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up soon as well.
Absolutely, my friend.
Yeah.
So let me ask you. So some people obviously can hear a little accent in your voice. Some might not. I've always been drawn to Gerry because of one, he's a great guy, but two, his accent. Because my mother and her side of the family are Irish, so I have some Irish in me. But my good friend Gerry O'Connell is from Ireland. And so, Gerry, give us a quick little snapshot of how you came to the U.S. and kind of what got you into the real estate world.
Okay, that's usually not quick. So on a quick level, I met a New Hampshire girl when I was back in Ireland. I was actually living in England at the time. I grew up in Cork City, on the south side of Cork City in Ireland, which is in the south. And way south, it's basically the most southern point almost of Ireland, in the middle as well. And so I when I was a bit younger, I went over to England. I was over there and worked in retail over there. I worked in retail in Ireland as well when I was much younger, and so I've been in retail a long time. And then I was basically getting divorced. So while I was over in England, I was getting divorced, and I decided I'd move back to Ireland, but I wanted to. I hadn't been over for Christmas and New Year, and I wasn't going to still have a chance for that. And I decided to go there Christmas and New Year for 1998 over 1999. That Christmas and New Year. And when I was there, I met an American girl from New Hampshire in my brother's house. Wow. She had been over in the summer doing some volunteer work around Ireland, and had worked with my brother and his wife at a place for about 4 weeks. I think she was there. She babysat my nieces. She met my mother. She met all the other brothers. I'm one of 7, 2 sisters and 2 girls and 5 boys total. Then, the question was asked by her, I think, of my brother, "Who is this?" And he said, "Oh, that's my brother, Ger." He said, "You have another brother?" So I never knew I existed. But over the next few days, we hit it off, and we stayed in communication. And I ended up going over to visit in May of '99. And, the rest is history. Came over and married her. I did the fiancé visa. And then that obviously was an opportunity for me to change what I was doing as well. So I was asked by a couple of friends. I'd been living here for a while, and I was working in Dover with the first real estate company I was with, who were a commercial company. And this kind of rolls into how I got into commercial. But they were they had paid for some lead generation system on a monthly basis, and I started, I was given the task of running that to help them drive a residential side of their business, which they weren't doing. I worked that very, very hard, but it was a waste of money. So anyway, as I did that, I had the opportunity to do some small showings for leases and everything. And as you know, going through your real estate licensing, nobody tells you the differences between commercial and residential. They just tell you the law. And that's it. And so as you learn it, and as I worked with this company, I started seeing like, okay, this looks good to me, because the commercial was like Monday to Friday, usually, no weekends, no evenings. And that was attractive to me for a very simple reason, that I had done retail. I'd worked weekends, I'd worked evenings. And so I was like, I want to get into this side of it. But the other thought at the back of my mind, and the reason I kind of said yes to doing real estate when I was first asked, was I wanted to learn how to earn passive income and invest in real estate, because I had done some dabbling in the stock market, and I found that was not reliable. But bricks and mortar are. So I wanted to learn how to invest, and the commercial side of it very big because of that. Right away, I joined the education committee because I'm new to real estate. I didn't know what I was doing. And I knew that if I learn, though, I will leapfrog a lot of people who just don't go about learning what the business is really about. So I joined the education committee straight away and worked through that for 2 years with Commercial Investment Board of Realtors. Became vice chair and then chair of the education committee. So we did a lot, and I attended everything education-wise. So it helped me a huge amount, and that's how I leapfrogged into commercial. And it's funny, you just have to get the education in whatever you're doing to be able to do it properly. And I get the questions from agents all the time, I'm thinking of doing commercial, what do I need to do? I'm like, you need to get educated. So take the time to do that, work with somebody who's doing it already, get involved with them, get into a team, whatever it takes. And then I also get the questions that, can you help me with this? I've got a commercial client and I want to get this done. I'm like, no, because, if you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be doing it. So it's like refer it out if you have to, or work with somebody who can help you and really work you into the business. But it's also not much good doing it just, one deal, I want to get it done because I'm doing commercial. That doesn't teach you anything. Might teach you a couple of little bits enough to be dangerous, but you have to get the full rounded education. And it's exactly the same for residential, for any aspect of residential that you're going to be a buyer's agent, a seller's agent, whatever way you want to do it. Specialize in land, specialize in only new single family sales. Whatever you're doing, is like become an expert in that. And that's kind of how I got into that. But I ended up in New Hampshire because we got married. We now have 2 kids. They're 10 and 12. Time is passing so quick. That's how I got into it.
So I have multiple funny Gerry stories. However,
you shouldn't be telling those on.
This one is
telling on this podcast.
This one's a relatively clean Gerry story. Not that any of them are dirty. They're not. They're just fun, really, at the end of the day. But going to Orlando a few years back for the national conference, and I'm sitting in the last seat on the plane, all the way in the back in Manchester, New Hampshire, and it's a full plane. And they come across the speaker and say, okay, we've closed the cabin doors. And I'm like, oh, there's 2 seats next to me. I'm sitting alone for the whole ride. And I'm like, this is awesome. And then I see these 2 people coming down the walkway. They're the only 2 people left standing on the plane. And these 2 guys come walking towards me. And as my eyes zoom in, I'm like, it's Bobby Mahefker and Gerry O'Connell. 2 buddies from the Seacoast area who are friends of mine. And I went, oh my frickin' word, how am I going to be stuck with you 2 sitting on the plane the whole way down? And the laughs we had the whole way down. Bob was telling me stories about Gerry that just made me laugh. And I've actually known, I knew Bob Mahefker's dad a long time ago, well before I knew Bob, which is kind of interesting.
That.
So
that was 2016.
It was. So you mentioned learning just enough to be dangerous, and I want to key in on that point because you are right. Whether it's residential, commercial land, you need to know your business. And at times, I think you and I could probably tell stories that we might have dealt with people that might not know their business, maybe the way we feel they should. But especially in my opinion, in the commercial world, there could be so many moving parts to commercial transactions that just knowing enough to be dangerous is actually that. You are dangerous if you don't know. I don't profess to know enough about the commercial world that I would even entertain taking on a commercial client, whether it's working with a buyer or a seller. But I've been in the real estate world for 25 years, but I don't work in that world. I feel that I have a pretty good knowledge of the residential side of things, but the commercial stuff, you're right. I call upon my friends like you that are in that side of the world to help me out, refer it to you, ask a question or two. But those that just don't want to do the work that you've done, but want to get the same reward, it's not right, in my opinion. They need to get that education. And as somebody that teaches, there's no question I thump education all the time. But just like yourself, Gerry, you've been doing this for quite a while. I'm an education junkie too. I take as many classes as I can because I feel I'm learning all the time. I'm never going to know enough, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that is the way it is. And there are a bunch of commercial agents. In fact, probably most of the commercial agents I know in CIBOR, Commercial Investment Board of Realtors, don't do residential.
Right.
And they will say, Bob Mahefka's one, he won't touch residential because he's like, I don't know what I'm doing with it. Right. So he doesn't want to touch it. So it goes both ways. It's about knowing what you do.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it's a totally different animal to the residential. Totally different animal. And there are many, many moving parts. There are many, many moving parts from residential. I don't want anybody to ever think I'm saying.
Oh no, I totally agree.
Difficult in any way. It's
just different.
Very different.
It's very different. Yeah.
And everybody can learn it if you get the education. And in fact, we had been working on in 2019 and into 2020 on an education system that CIBOR was going to be presenting and making available to NHAR and teaching the basics of commercial real estate for people who could get a designation. We were trying to do a designation. We're not sure if that's done, but it might be like a certificate or something. But we'll have it done through the Real Estate Commission approved classes, and I think maybe it was supposed to be flying out this year, but with COVID and everything, we haven't gotten it done.
Right.
And hopefully that will be out by next year and available. But the thing is, nobody will have an excuse not to try and do it then.
Right, absolutely.
They'll have a full program of classes, probably 2 different sets of 6 programs in each class. And it'll give everybody the opportunity to try and get something and get educated and be able to say, well, now I can try it. And I say try because,
why not?
Even those people are in it, when I was first doing it and getting my education, I was still trying it and learning as I go. But I had a broker behind me who I run everything by, and it was a good experience with that. And I had a lot of other commercial brokers I was able to build relationships with that I could call them up, and it's the commercial brokers in cyber have been very, very helpful working with each other. There's good understandings, and I could always call on anybody and say, hey, I've come across this situation, and it's always good to take a step back and say, okay, well, if I'm getting asked this question now, let me get the answer. And then come back to it.
Well, we are kind of in the relationship business, both commercial side and residential. And then for those that might not know, if you want to get a real estate license in the state of New Hampshire, you have to go through a 40-hour pre-licensing course and pass a national and state portion of the test. And I'm one that teaches the pre-licensing. However, once you get that license and go to work for a brokerage, you can sell commercial real estate, you can sell raw land, you can sell residential. There isn't a differentiation between the license, which the pre-licensing course really has very minimal, if any, applications relative to commercial real estate, which is unfortunate. And I'm not a fan of that part of it, but I just want to let people know that. So Gerry was a past president here of the state of New Hampshire. Was that 2018?
2018.
Yeah, 2018 already, which is can't believe it was that long ago.
Yeah, I was president of this Commercial Investment Board of Realtors in 2015. They had just decided in 2014 to create their own public policy committee, which they hadn't had before, to effect changes in real estate that we all felt were needed. And because I was then tied in with the state association, it was a very good segue to have a much stronger relationship with the state association. And I got involved with the state association. And so, you know, somebody asked me, it's that thing where people tap you on the shoulder and say, would you do this? It's like,
yeah, you know,
you say, what, me?
I've had Dan on our podcast as Bob Quinn, as you and I were talking about this morning, and Dan and I talked about that. You know, we both, as you were too, were tapped on the shoulder by someone. The three of us probably were tapped on the shoulder by maybe the same person, potentially. But that's what it's all about. And one of the things I like to ask people is, you've served at the CYBOR level, at the local, the state level, and the national level. Do you think that your business is better off because of your volunteer service at those three levels, or do you feel that it's taken away from your business?
Without a shadow of a doubt, it is better. And there are several reasons for that. You know, you do become more visible. I became more visible when it was announced in the papers that I was president of CYBOR, and a couple of my clients at the time said, wow, Gerry, I never knew you were doing that kind of thing. And you do become more visible, but I think the biggest thing it does is it makes you a better business person. You know, you learn. It's a learning experience. It's a serving experience. You just learn so much of the different aspects that happen that you don't come across all the time, that you know, and that you do come across all the time. But it makes you a better business person. In 2015, when I served with CYBOR as president, I don't know, I was going into that thinking, boy, am I ready? And how am I going to keep my business going? You know, but it was my best year to date. It ended up being my best year to date, you know.
Isn't that crazy?
And I know that, like, we were in a bad market before that, and that may not have been as hard as it seemed, but 2015 was still a tough year, even in commercial real estate. And then, you know, things got better because I think I became a better business person. I became a better relationship person, which is what it's all about, you know. And you build relationships, and you find more contacts, you find more people you're coming into contact with. And the more you do that, you're increasing your sphere and you're increasing your business because of that. Especially if you act professionally and people get to know that you know what you're doing.
Right,
you know?
right.
So that, without a doubt, that was, you know, that is the biggest thing about serving. And serving gives you a lot of satisfaction as well. And you also start to realize, you know, once I was president of NHAR, you know, you start to realize, and I kind of always knew how much NAR did and how much NAR offered. And we as realtors do not take advantage of 20% of what we should, you know. There's so much on offer and so many things happen, but you start to realize how much the volunteer leadership of National Association of Realtors, New Hampshire Association of Realtors, and the local associations, you start to realize how much and how hard those people work for the rest of their members, and it goes hugely unnoticed by members.
Right, I agree.
But when you're in there, and I always say to people, like, if you want to learn, if you want to do volunteer, do that work, get involved. If you want to change something, get involved. And that's why I do it, and that's why I volunteer. And I've done many committees in my local association, in NHAR. This year I'm on the finance committee for NHAR. And this year I'm a Region 1 representative of the Realtors Political Action Committee, or the Trustees, Realtors Trustees Committee. And that's, being involved with realtors from all over the US, and through that we also get involved with realtors all over the world, because we come into contact with them at the national conventions. I see that they learn a lot from how we do it over here in the US, and the National Association of Realtors is a fantastic organization, and it goes all the way down to our single members, and we just need to make sure that we support what needs to be done. And we're all here to help protect property rights and the right to home ownership in the country. So it is good, and 2018 was a fantastic year for me while I was president of NHAR. It did not, affect my time, but I started to learn to become a better time manager. I delegated more. Could I do more of that? Yes, absolutely. We learn as we go, but
right.
But you start to shift things out, and you start to focus on the important things and where you can spend your time.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting, the service piece over the years on committees that I've been on and things like that, and just the friendships that you form, not only locally as you and I have, but at the national and the international level. You are right. It's amazing to know that we have friends all over.
Right.
One last thing I want to touch on, just because I believe you are the only realtor in the state of New Hampshire that was selected through an application process to participate in the National Association Leadership Academy. Not only did you do New Hampshire's Leadership Academy in the first ever class of 2016, but you were selected out of, well, I'll bet there was probably at least 160 to almost 200 applicants for the Leadership Academy at the national level, and you guys had 18 or 19 people in your class. So they pare that down. I was actually on the leadership advisory group, not when Gerry was in the academy, but I was there the year after as one of those people that goes through the process of selecting those that do get selected to the academy, even though I've never gone through the academy at the national level. So the question I have for you, Ger, is what was that experience like? I'm assuming the 18 or 19 people that were in your class, I can't remember if it was 19. I think it was 19.
19, yes.
Yeah. How many of those people did you know before the academy class started? I'm assuming not many, but just give me an overview of how that went and what kind of relationships you formed and what you learned about yourself going through that.
That was a fantastic experience, and it was one that I am so happy I did, and I would encourage everybody to do it. Like you said, it is hard to do. I've come across one person who has applied 4 times now and still not being selected, but which is a shame. But it's a hard process. We had 19 of us in 2018. They have something like 18 or 19 or 20, and I think there's been a 22 class since then. But that's from all over the country. I didn't know any of them. Met them all for the first time in Washington, D.C. in January at the first meeting in 2018. The same year I did the presidency of NHAR, so that was quite a crazy year. But it was like I took the opportunity to apply for it and interviewed, and it's a tough interview, but it was like I think with not just my experience as a realtor, but my past experience having done customer service and retail and being a produce manager, and I had done some leadership things while I was in retail, and this one was by far the best one because of the extra expanse that it was over and above what we did in NHAR. And the NHAR Leadership Academy is fantastic, so I'm going to encourage everybody in New Hampshire to apply for that. And again, that's limited. Only so many can do it per year. That's all that's possible. But you just learn so much with that, with meeting the other people, getting the other different points of view. It's amazing that some of those people now are friends. I'm going on the 1st of February, I'm going down to Pennsylvania for one of the people who was there is getting installed as the president of the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. So that'd be a very good thing to go to. And several of the people at the Leadership Academy in 2018 are going as well. So we'll have a kind of a get together. And every year that we do the National Association down in DC for the legislative or the annual event, we always try to get together, and it might be 6 or 7 of us, but we trying to get 19 together is almost impossible. But some of them are actually one of the people over in California, and they're from all over. So we have people from Washington State, California, a couple of people in California, Florida, Texas. It was all over the place, and one of them is coming on a trip to Ireland that we should have done in 2020.
That's awesome.
Should finally happen in 2022. And he's bringing his dad, and we're doing the golf trip to Ireland.
That's awesome.
Several of the others want to go on the next one because, it'll just be a blast. But they've become great, great friends. And those kind of relationships are fantastic as well. And several of them are moving forward to leadership within the National Association as well. So,
good for you. It's
like raising the level as you do it each time, and if you don't raise your level, you don't move forward.
I've had the opportunity to be around the country with you and see your interaction with your Leadership Academy friends, and just to see how everybody's so happy to see each other. There is a bond there. I mean, as you know, even on our little level here in New Hampshire, there's a bond between the 9 of us that went through that first Academy class. Right. It's a unique thing. It's hard to explain what it is, but it's amazing. So I'm actually following in Gerry's footsteps, I guess. I just told Gerry this morning that I am just about finished with my application process for the 2023 Leadership Academy, should I be selected. And who knows, we're going to roll the dice. But just as Gerry was the state president the year he was elected, I'll be the state president should I get elected to the Leadership Academy in 2023. So I might be calling on you, Gerry, to say, hey, dude, what did you do when this happened, right? So
yeah, I'd love to help with that.
Yeah.
I actually, the person that I mentioned, that I also got made friends with, met again at the in Tennessee for the Realtors political training. And that person who applied a few times, I said to her, send me your application. And I was able to give her some help with it. And there were a lot of things that I thought, okay, well, this is what helped me. And this is not something you can learn before you apply. It's what you learn after you've applied, and after you've been accepted even. Right. And so I thought that helped her application, and she didn't get it, but that's okay. I think she stopped trying for now, but she might try again in the future. But at least she tried.
Absolutely. And
keep on trying, because that's what you've got to keep on doing.
Yeah, and I may not get selected, and that's okay. I mean, I think maybe one of the advantages I do have is I was on the other side of the table giving the interviews, right? Asking the questions, knowing what they ask. And I've seen 175 applications before, so I see what people have put down. So I'm using some of that information to help, but it's all about me. and we'll see what happens. So, well, listen, Gerry, we've gone over our time slot. I know we didn't get to some of the things we're going to talk about, but
yeah, a talker sometimes.
well, that's what we do, my friend. But hey, listen, I'm psyched you came on. It was good to see you, and I can't wait to see you in person because we are friends and we need a good old hug to say hi. But say hello to your wife and kids for me, and I wish you the best in 2022 and stay healthy, and I'm sure we'll see you out on the road.
Very much the same to you and your wife and kids, and make sure everybody's looked after.
Okay, my friend,
Right,
we'll talk
see you
soon.
on the road soon.
Thanks,
Take care.
Gerry. Take care.
Bye-bye.